On this episode of the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by Riverwind Casino, the voice of the Arkansas State Red Wolves, Matt Stolz, joins us to preview the matchup this weekend, and we give you some of the things we'll be looking for on offense and defense for the Sooners. We preview the best games in week one of college football, and then we give you our winners and losers of the week. Please download and subscribe to the podcast, rate it 5 stars, and write us a good review. Follow the show on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Just search Oklahoma Breakdown on any of those, and you'll find us. All right, our man Michael Hosty will kick this thing off. It's time for the Oklahoma Breakdown. It's a beautiful Wednesday, August 30th, and you're listening to the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by Riverwind Casino. Riverwind is Oklahoma City's premier casino experience, and there's so many reasons why Riverwind is consistently voted OKC's #1 casino, but it all starts with their amazing variety of gaming thrills and excitement. Riverwind's beautiful award-winning environment plays host to more than 2,800 of the latest electronic games with a huge selection of table games, including blackjack, match roulette, and Teddy's favorite, craps. No matter what your game, Riverwind has it in spades and hearts. And to learn more about their gaming promotions and entertainment options in the month of September, yeah, that's right, it's almost September, visit riverwind.com. Riverwind Casino, simply the best. Now we're recording this Wednesday morning. Please leave us a 5-star review and a nice comment while you're at it. Ted, we're so close to playing some football here in Norman, Oklahoma. Let's go.
I know we are. We're knocking on the door. I feel somewhat prepared myself. Oftentimes I don't. It just happens upon us. Here it is. But this year I feel like I'm in the groove, ready to roll.
Yeah, we got a lot to get to. So let's get started. Ted, you did BV's coaches show on Monday night. Anything that really stood out to you about what he said?
Not really. I guess maybe the biggest thing is I expect him to play a lot of guys. And everyone has a certain feeling about whenever we see the oars on the depth chart. I get it. He says that, all of those or most of those anyway, those are legitimate position battles that are going to continue to play out. But they expect to play a bunch of guys. He said, like, if a guy's earned, 20% of the snaps, they're going to play him 20% of the snaps. If a guy's earned half of the snaps, they're going to play him half of the snaps. At least that's the goal. As they start off, sometimes that can be difficult to get to, but I do expect him to play a bunch of guys, and not just if we get a big lead, mop up time. I think there's going to be a lot of guys, in and out during the critical moments of the football game,
which is a good thing, right? And that goes back to the term we've heard over and over and over again from Venables and the rest of the staff: competitive depth. Right now, my hope is that some guys start to separate themselves. Right, that competitive depth pushes some of these guys that are in these position battles to play at their highest level, to where we're going, okay, he's clearly the guy for that spot. But there is no better evaluation tool than game tape, Ted. And we'll see who rises to the occasion, maybe who doesn't perform at a high enough level.
Yep. No, we'll see. And coaches hate it, but it's just a fact. Some guys play better on game day than they do in practice. Some guys play worse on game day than they do in practice.
Yeah. It's one of those hard things to figure out. Great practice players that stink on game day. It's confusing.
It is.
Okay. The depth chart came out, right? And, going back to our last episode, we made our predictions. We kind of nailed it. Now, there are a couple things that I think surprised people. Now, Tawi Walker being listed as a co-starter with Marcus Major, if you've heard us talk about how the staff feels about him, it really shouldn't be that surprising. I mean, they love him. And really, it just seems like he's been rewarded for his consistency throughout the entire offseason, Ted. And I'm happy for him. I also think people don't need to overreact to it. All the guys on there are going to get a lot of carries and going to get a chance to prove what they can do. Sawchuk has been banged up. Venables has kind of hinted that they're probably going to hold him out of this game. We'll see, right? We'll see how he feels on Saturday. But yeah, this is a guy who just comes to work every single day, does the right things on the practice field, and he gets rewarded for it on the depth chart.
Durability. I mean, I don't think it's any mystery whenever you look at the running back group to say that this group has a chance to be something special, really, really good. But the kind of the underlying fact here is Marcus Major has had several health issues. Javonte Barnes is coming off of a injury, surgery. He missed spring with it. Sawchuk missed the bulk of last season, and he's already having hamstring issues to start off this year. So we've got a lot of talent there, but everyone's got a little bit of a scar on their record whenever it comes to injury stuff, except for Tawee Walker, at least that I know of. And, whenever you're available for every practice and you're consistent, they know exactly what they're going to get from you. It's not a surprise that, he is where he is. And the other thing is, it's not a charity case.
Yeah.
This kid is a legit running back. He's a bowling ball, incredibly difficult to tackle. He will absolutely rock your jaw in pass protection. So not a charity case with Tawee Walker. He deserves to be where he is.
Yeah, and I get the sense that some people in the fan base are like, oh, this means that Barnes and Sawchuk, like they're just not doing well in practice. That's not the case. It's just Tawee Walker has been really consistent and he's practiced at a high level. Right. So my advice would be, before you start freaking out, let's watch Tawee Walker playing a few games and see how he does. Right. That's where I'm at with it.
Well, if I was blind and I was out at practice and I was judging who I was going to pick my starter based on who gets screamed at the least amount by DeMarco Murray, who may be the most brutal coach on the entire staff other than BV, I would pick Tawee Walker as the starter because everyone else gets cursed pretty much constantly except for Tawee Walker. It's always good job, we. So
yeah,
there you go.
Which that stuff matters, right?
That's right.
Okay. Was there anything else on the depth chart that really jumped out to you? I don't know. I'm just going to say, I don't know how anyone that listens to this podcast could be surprised that Justin Harrington was the starter at Cheetah over McCullough. I mean, how many times do we have to tell people?
Had it for a year since spring. And it's not a guess. You just go out there and watch the guy go with the number ones the entire time. I mean, it's not any grand revelation. I know. Here's the thing. I know people are super excited about Deshaun McCullough, and they should be. Think he's a really exciting player. He's going to play quite a bit. I think that he's going to get a lot of opportunities. And, the point that you've made continually, I think is right on. Venables will know how to put him in places to succeed, given some of his limitations as they sit right now, which is some pass coverage stuff, right? If he's in there playing Cheetah, look for them to be really aggressive, bringing him off the edge. If they're getting bigger personnel grouping, stuff like that. So, yeah.
So was there anything else on the depth chart that really caught your attention?
Oh, not really. I think it was pretty standard. The corner situation opposite Woody Washington is, there's been some nagging injury stuff there that's kind of shaken that race up a little bit, I think.
Definitely. Now I want to say Gentry Williams, I love that he's getting this opportunity, right? You know me, I'm always rooting for the Oklahoma guys. Mm-hmm. And he looks fantastic physically right now, just like his body type, but also the way that he's moving. Like he looks by far the best he's looked since he's been on campus. And it's just, yeah, man, it's unfortunate. Josiah Wagner was a guy that had a legitimate chance to start as a true freshman, but he's got this recurring injury, right? That's holding him back from getting significant reps in practice. So it's a great opportunity for Gentry to just go and take that job, right? And that's what I expect him to do, right? When you get an opportunity like this, especially as a young player, you got to go make the most of it. And that's exactly what I'm expecting from Gentry Williams.
Yep. Nope. I agree. He may have a slow start to the season because of the injury, but he's going to be in the fight the whole time, looking for either reps or starting position.
This shouldn't matter as much as it probably does, but when you see the corner group come out, your eyes immediately go to Gentry Williams. You go, who's that guy?
Yeah.
Like he looks really good physically right now.
Yeah. Between him and Jaden Rowe and Kenai Walker and those guys, like if you're Arkansas State, don't check the corner line over there in team warmups for Oklahoma. It's going to look like linebackers.
Yeah. No, especially Gentry. I'm really impressed with what I've seen over this last week from him, and can't wait to watch him on Saturday. Now, one name, it just hasn't come up a lot, and it's because he had a bit of a health scare, and that's Jacob Lacey. But he is listed behind Laulu and Kelly there in that defensive tackle rotation, and we had Todd Bates on Coach's Corner this week, and he told me he wants to play 6 guys. Right, that's the magic number for him, and he said Jacob Lacey is going to be in that rotation. Called him a technician, said he's really tough. Right, maybe the weight isn't exactly where you want it to be, but he is a guy that I think is going to play snaps for this football team, and he's really with the health issues he was battling. Like he's really not a guy we've talked much about, but just listen to Bates and the way that he was talking about him. I mean, there's just no doubt that he's going to play some significant snaps for this team.
Yeah, and he may be one of those guys, and everyone on the team falls into this category, but he may be one to watch a little bit more. Really start to come on strong mid-season. He's going to be quite a bit behind these guys as far as reps and practice reps, individual technique work and all of that stuff. So he may be a guy that hits a peak a little bit later in the season, which is fine.
Yeah. Any other depth chart stuff? Sounds like we're going to have a punter tryout just in these non-conference games. But other than that, the depth chart pretty much looked exactly the way we thought it would look.
Yeah, I think so. No surprises at wide receiver or tight end. No surprises at linebacker or any of the edge guys, defensive ends. That D-line just looks deep.
Yeah. Going to be fun to watch. I expect them to play at a high level. All right, let's move on to things we're looking for in this OU Arkansas State matchup. Ted, what stands out about Arkansas State's offense to you? A lot of mystery around that group coming into this game. But what are some things you're looking for from OU's defense in this one?
Well, we really got to control the line of scrimmage. Defensive line should have a really big day. You go back and you watch some of their stuff from a year ago. I don't know how similar it's going to look. A lot of the personnel has changed. They did a lot of quarterback run game stuff last year, a lot of snaps out of the pistol. Little bit of misdirection, but some quarterback run and stuff that was sprinkled in there. I don't know how much of that we're going to see. New quarterback last year was a real runner. Have to kind of see this year what their guy could do, but it's all going to start up front. If they can block us in the run game and in the pass game, they're going to have a chance to move the ball and score. If they can't block us up front, which this is where we're aiming to be, like to have the mismatch on the defensive line. We should be aggressive. We should be in the backfield a lot. I expect our defensive line to have a huge day in tackles for loss and sacks.
Yeah, and when you look at their offensive line, height and weight-wise, look like a Power 5 team.
Yep.
Right? Height and weight-wise.
A lot of Power 5 players on there.
Yeah, their center also, and I don't know how you factored this in, but he has an just elite mullet. I mean, elite. Go look at Jacob Byers' team photo. Just luscious flow with the mullet. But
Usually
yeah,
translate well for offensive linemen.
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
It
but
should almost be a combine category.
just like, do you have a mullet? Yes or
Check
no?
the mullet, yeah.
But yeah, you're looking for complete and utter dominance from the defensive line, right? We've heard about the competitive depth. You know, you got a lot more bodies, you know, play a lot of guys. And, you know, that drop off, right, which really hasn't been there in training camp, right? The ones and twos have both played at a very high level. That's what you're looking for. You're looking for that rotation to essentially like all these guys playing at the same level. Now, you also want a couple guys to really start separating themselves, right? And being like, hey, these are our go-to pass rush guys. You know, these are the guys that are disruptive. Hopefully a few guys emerge in this game when it comes to that. But yeah, it's all about just dominating the line of scrimmage, right?
That's it. Yeah, and Arkansas State's going to have a big improvement on their offensive line from a year ago. And, you know, first drive, maybe they look okay. Second drive, our defensive line and edge guys should just continue to come at them in waves. And it's not going to take very long at all before you really start to wear those guys down. I mean, that's the way I envision it. And if that happens, as you go back further, linebackers, secondary players, you should have a trickle down effect, and all those guys should play much better as well.
Yeah. Now, if the Red Wolves, which by the way, just an awesome nickname, right? Red Wolves. If they can't get the running game going, the two guys to know are Jeff Foreman and Corey Rucker, 14 and 7. Those are guys that have made plays for them in the past, right? They look the part physically, and if all else fails, they're going to try to get the ball to 7 and 14. Mm-hmm. And that's just that's what I anticipate happening if they just can't get anything going in the run game.
Yeah. Well, and you know, it's one of those interesting things for a team like Arkansas State. How much are you really going to abandon what's going to be your bread and butter for the year, right? Some of your running game stuff, like you're going to try and win the game, but there comes a point to where, hopefully, that this is more of a practice, and you know, I think they would stick with some traditional stuff maybe a little bit longer than they would if the game was in game tight and they have a chance to win it. Which, you know, maybe I'm giving Oklahoma a little bit too much credit here, but I think they'll probably stick with the running game. But you're right. Early, if there's a chance they're hanging around this thing, they're going to spread you out and try and attack some matchups instead of running right at the teeth of your team.
Yeah. Anything else you're watching for OU's defense?
I will expect a couple of these wide receivers to make a play or two. Their backfield, Arkansas State's backfield, is incredibly talented. I expect, you know, for those guys to maybe create something, make a guy miss, spin off tackles. Like, there's going to be some stuff like that happen. What we can't have is a guy miss a tackle and turn into a 50-yard gain. We can't have we can tolerate maybe a guy getting beaten on a competitive play to one of these receivers. We can't have free runners down the field. I'm just looking for the defense to avoid the critical mistakes.
Yeah.
So the other stuff's going to happen. I mean, they're not going to be perfect.
Don't let Oklahoma beat Oklahoma, right? How many times have we heard Venables say it?
There you go.
All right. Looking at Arkansas State's defense. Right. And what I'm looking for OU's offense. First of all, Arkansas State is a 4-2-5 defense. Now, they played some 3-man front last season. They jumped into it against Ohio State in the second half. There were some stretches against Memphis that they did it, some stretches against James Madison. And They were awful at it. I mean, awful. I mean, just god awful. So how much 3-man front are they going to sprinkle in? I don't know. But when they get in it, I expect OU to gash them, just like all those teams did. Now, if you get into 12 personnel or 21, their nickel, which they call the star position, he bumps in, and Ted, my goodness, it just looks like traditional 4-3 defense. It would bring a smile to your face, my friend. But they're going to be undersized on the defensive line. Now, Micah Bland, the transfer from North Alabama, he's the one from a height and weight perspective. He checks the box, right? He's checking in 315, 318. But the rest of that group up front is going to be undersized. So I'm looking for Oklahoma's offensive line, right? This group of 5 who are going to be playing their first snap all together in a game, which is kind of insane when you think about it. But this group of 5, this is going to be the first time they've ever played in a game together. I expect clear communication, no mental errors, right? And then I'm looking in the run game at those double teams on their bread and butter concepts, right? I'm looking at all the variations of counter we saw Levy call last year, all the inside zone variations, right? Split zone, zone insert that was so successful with Brayden Willis being kind of that chess piece. I'm looking for the double teams and the assignments to all be clean on that. That's what, and if it's clean and they're going the right places, they're going to move these guys off the ball. They are. So that's what I'm looking for, is that offensive line, who I think is very talented. I'm looking for them to move some people, right? And with what Arkansas State showed a year ago, they're not going to do anything overly complicated defensively, right? It's now I would anticipate them doing some one gap movement, right? They're not just going to sit there in a base structure and let OU just maul them, right? They're going to try to change it up. From what I watched from a year ago, crossfire is kind of their blitz of choice, but you got to handle all that stuff and you got to move people off the football. That's the number one thing I'm watching for, Ted.
Yeah. And, I hope that happens. And you brought up a good point, like with the counter stuff and the insert stuff. Like, one of the things to watch is, like, we don't have a Brayden Willis this year, but who's gonna fill that role, and what type of player are we going to get out of them? I mean, because Brayden Willis was excellent at all that stuff last year, and can we get to that same level or get close to that? That's because, philosophically, with all the running stuff that Levy wants to do, that's a critical part of it.
Yeah, no doubt. Now, this is kind of building on the offensive line conversation. Running backs should have a lot of one-on-one situations with their nickel and their safeties, right? If you get things blocked up, there's going to be free hitters. That's football. But there's no one that is accounting for those guys in some of these concepts. Eric Gray did a much better job of making those guys miss a year ago. Can Major and Tawee and Barnes, Hicks, whoever, can they turn those situations where it's them versus the free hitter, make a miss, and turn a 7-yard run into a 57-yard run? Do we have guys that can do that, right? In Arkansas State, they got an experienced secondary. Their safeties have played a lot of ball. And they're going to come up and they got nothing to lose. They're going to be flying in run support. They're going to be trying to make a name for themselves, right? It's the biggest game they're going to play all season long. So can the group of backs that we've got with all the depth, right? Do we have any like game-changing guys that can make those guys miss and really turn these into some explosive runs? I'm very excited to watch that.
I am too. I expect it to start off by one of those safeties trying to make a name for themselves, and they're probably going to pick the wrong guy because Tawee Walker's going to make him end up on SportsCenter. Now, the first time he may take a 7-yard run and turn it into a 9-yard run whenever he, takes his face mask right through one of those guys' chests. But it only takes one of those as a safety to come up a little bit differently for the rest of the game. So I think Tawi's going to probably take one for the team early, and everyone else is going to capitalize off the safeties being a little bit slower to come down to the run game.
Yeah, I hear you. Now, I've got two more things that I'm going to have my eye on offensively. You're playing inferior competition, right? I want to see this offense operate the way it's supposed to operate, right? And I know that a lot of people looked at last year like, hey, where's the intermediate passing game? Can we develop that part of this offense? Well, the philosophy of this offense is run it down a team's face, force them to commit more to the run, and throw it over their head for long touchdowns. Like, at its core, that's what this offense is all about. So that's what I'm looking for. Efficient, violent run game. And then when Arkansas State, and they were very aggressive in coverage last year, right? A lot of 1, a shocking amount of 0. They will give you the opportunities. And there's no doubt in my mind, Lebby's going to take those shots. Dylan Gabriel, he's got to connect on those. He's got to be better with his deep ball accuracy. We have to have wide receivers that can run by corners from Arkansas State. If you go back and watch Ohio State's game with them last year, Marvin Harrison Jr. looked bored with how many times he just ran by him over and over and over again. It was almost comical to watch. We have to have some guys that can do that, whether that's Dylan Gabriel in at quarterback, Jackson Arnold in at quarterback. I don't care. Run it and then run past them and score from far, right? How many times have we heard Lebby say it? Right. So that's what I'm looking for, this offense to just function and operate the way that it's supposed to operate.
Yeah. Well, my hope this year is that our offensive line gets to a point where, I mean, the amount of confidence, swagger, whatever you want to call it, that group had a couple of years ago, where they're standing out there on the line of scrimmage and they just know that they're about to maul the shit out of the defensive line. I used to get annoyed with the 15-yard penalties because it was a guarantee that every game there's going to be a 15-yard penalty from one of the offensive linemen. But if that attitude comes around, I think that's going to be like the missing link that is finally going to click at some point whenever they look at each other and say, we're pretty damn good.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Last thing, Dylan Gabriel, Jackson Arnold, whoever's in at quarterback, they're going to have some opportunities to keep the football when they're reading the end man on the line of scrimmage, right? When they're leaving that guy unblocked. They crash hard at end in those concepts and basically dare the quarterback to keep the ball. So we could see those guys take off. Maybe Lebby will just call some like give plays where it's not an option for him to keep it. But there's going to be opportunities with the way, at least with the way that they showed how they wanted to play it a year ago. Maybe they play it differently this season, but I mean, they really do not, they don't show a lot of respect for the quarterback keeping the ball and using his legs. So those opportunities will be there.
I'm interested to see how Oklahoma plays it. Are they going to do it more early to get their guys reps at it and have teams thinking about it? Or are they going to not do it a whole lot early? I mean, they're going to do it some, but just a little amount of volume there and maybe have it be a bigger part of what they do in some critical games. I don't know. That's the long game chess part of it that we'll have to watch and see how it happens.
Yeah. All right, let's get to call your shot. And this one has a lot in it, so we're just going to do this one. It comes from Arik Withrow, who says, man, we asked you guys, hey, what's the number one thing you're watching for in this game? Arik says, good, clean game. No big busts on D. No penalties. I like that. Now, clean, yeah, I would say he means efficient there, because I'm looking for some nasty.
Yeah.
But I think he means efficient. And then the no big busts on D, you hit that. And then no penalties. That's something like this. You got to be a more disciplined football team. And in my mind, like pre-snap penalties.
Yeah.
False starts, illegal motions on offense, right? Jumping off sides on defense. What I like to call penalties of passion, those are going to happen, man. Those happen when things are moving fast out there on the game field. But yeah, none of the pre-snap stuff. Got to eliminate that for sure.
Yep. No, I agree. But do keep it in the back of your head that we don't get preseason, right? This is the first like full go of it. There's going to be some things happen out there. There's going to be some guys make mistakes, and it's good to make them. If you're going to do it early where we can learn from it, correct it, hopefully not have it happen again. But I hope for a clean game, but I do expect to see, a handful of things happen out there. It's just, it's how rust is going to play itself into this thing.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm excited though. All right, birthday shout outs time. Happy first birthday to Lincoln Dodd.
Happy 6th birthday to JoJo Coleman.
Happy 10th birthday to Cooper Thomas.
Happy 26th birthday to Heath Cribbs.
Happy 36th birthday to Matt Mosley.
Happy 46th birthday to Chad McKinney.
And happy birthday to Christy Littlefield. All right, let's learn a little more about the Arkansas State Red Wolves with the voice of the Red Wolves, Matt Stolz. But first, Love's Travel Stops is now offering a nationwide 10-cent per gallon discount on gas and auto diesel. Just download the Love's Connect app and scan your barcode at the prompt on screen and watch that price drop 10 cents per gallon. Across the country, the Love's Connect app unlocks exclusive deals, can help any traveler plan their route or meal on the highway. So before you hit the road, be sure to download the Love's Connect app to save 10 cents per gallon and experience the country's best highway hospitality at Love's Travel Stops. Love's also has you covered if you forget your phone charger or headphones with their expanded mobile to-go zone. And of course, don't forget to grab yourself some of that delicious Java Amore.
It's hunting time in Oklahoma. New sponsor alert.
Yeah.
If you're looking to buy some hunting property, the Land Doctors can help you find the ideal ranch. They build custom hunting lodges and lakes, and they can turn Oklahoma's raw land into your personal playground. If you like to sell some land or you simply want to add to your portfolio, then call Colton Cole at 405-615-7645 or visit landdoctors.com.
And if you're looking at that name, Colton Cole, and you're like, yeah, Sherry Cole's son.
Nice.
How about that?
Very nice.
And hey, you hungry out there? Well, then head to the garage for hand-smashed patties, butter, toasted buns, and ice-cold beer. Their food is fantastic, and it is the perfect spot to watch any big game. Visit eatatthegarage.com to find a location near you and order online from the garage in your neighborhood. All right, here is Matt Stolz. It is our pleasure to be joined by the voice of the Arkansas State Red Wolves. Matt Stolz is in the house. Matt, how we doing, man?
Hey, great to be with you guys.
We're fired up to have you. Fired up to have you. Fired up for you guys to make the trip to Norman. It's going to be hot. So start hydrating, Matt. Even though the visitor booth AC is, what would you say, Ted? Decent? It's decent.
Well, last year, was it the first game of the year the air conditioner wasn't working last year?
Oh,
yeah. We don't need to revisit that though. I think
that sounds brutal.
Now, Matt, I wanted to start here, right? Butch Jones takes over a couple of seasons ago, and you guys have had a tremendous run with coaches, right? Hugh Freeze, Gus Malzahn, Brian Harsin, Blake Anderson. I mean, you won 5 Sun Belt titles between 2010 and 2019. And it hasn't gone particularly well since Butch Jones took over. What have been the biggest issues? What have gone wrong? What's gone wrong for Coach Jones?
Well, what Coach Jones has done is he's done what he did at other programs with Central Michigan, Cincinnati, Tennessee. He had to completely rebuild some of those programs, and really he wanted to build it his way at Arkansas State. And what he's done, he's really attacked things in recruiting. And at those other stops that I mentioned, he was known as one of the better recruiters out there. And in what is a very good league now in the Sun Belt Conference, I think arguably the best league in the group of five, he's turned in back-to-back #1 recruiting classes in the Sun Belt now. So he's brought in some really good talent. They've really attacked the portal as well. But when you look at these last two classes in particular, what he's done is he's done a lot of things that you really don't see as much of around the country now, particularly at a group of five school. And he's continuing to really base things with his high school recruiting. He's going after those high school recruits and then trying to address the needs through the transfer portal. So look, it's not the way to get a quick fix and win a lot of games right away, but he's trying to build a program. And we've made the comment a time or two through our broadcast that, hey, if he's trying to get another job and get out of here quickly, he doesn't act like it with the way he's recruited here in the first couple of years.
I did a show with Coach Venables the other day, and whenever he was talking about Arkansas State, he got off on a little bit of a tangent, as he does sometimes, and he was talking about the transfer portal and how it really has hurt a lot of schools like Arkansas State. I know you said that they've gone out and tried to address some needs there, and I'm sure they did a good job, but how difficult has it been with the amount of guys that are leaving the school?
Well, one thing that was, I guess, a positive following last season was the fact that there weren't a lot of our better players that took off. And I think that says a lot about kind of the culture he's trying to build here. I think it's a very positive atmosphere around the locker room right now. And hey, you mentioned it off the top, Gabe, just the kind of success that this program has had. You can come in here and win at Arkansas State. We had a really nice 9-year run from 2011 to 2019, where we had 9 straight winning seasons, 9 consecutive bowl games, 5 conference championships. And yeah, it's been a 3-year stretch now where the Red Wolves have had losing seasons, but we know that we can win here. And Coach Jones, again, is trying to build this thing back up the right way. And we lost a couple of players last year. We lost our best corner to Oklahoma State, and we lost a tight end who initially went to Colorado, and then he ended up at Mississippi State. But those were really the only 2 losses we had in the portal. We had a lot of offers for our place kicker, and he stuck around. And we believe we've got one of the best kickers in the country. So, it's those little wins. It's building the culture that Coach Jones wants to build that, he feels like is going to keep guys around at Arkansas State.
Yeah, I did see the kicker. Is it Zavada? Is that how you say it?
Yeah, he had a heck of a freshman season last year. He missed 1 field goal all year. It was from 51 yards into the wind, and the very next quarter he comes out and hits from 56. He was a Lou Groza semifinalist last year. So there were a lot of schools that were after him, and fortunately we've been able to build a really good relationship with Dominic here, and he wanted to stay at Arkansas State. So hopefully we can keep him around a couple of more years after this year.
What do you expect the offense to look like? New quarterback situation, and I know that last year quite a bit of quarterback run stuff in that offense. Do you expect it to look similar as it did a year ago?
No, I don't think it will be. I don't think it'll be similar to last year because the offensive line has been built up. It's a much bigger O-line than what we've had in the past here. Even going back to the long run of success that we had, that 9-year stretch I was talking about. I can't remember a bigger offensive line. We brought in several transfers. We'll start 3 transfers on the offensive line coming up on Saturday. Our center, we believe, is a really good one in Jacob Bear. He's a transfer from Lamar. He had started every game the last couple of years. We've got a couple of Ole Miss transfers starting on the offensive line that have come in, and that average size across that A-State front is 322 pounds that we're going to start on Saturday. So it's bigger than what we've seen in the past. That's what we needed to address. We needed some size, some depth up front. And then the quarterback situation is a little bit different. We brought in a transfer from Colorado, JT Shrout, who started at Colorado a season ago. He's a 6th-year guy. He actually started his career at Tennessee, spent 3 years there before going to Colorado for the last couple. He's won that starting quarterback job, and believe we have some good skill guys around him. Feel really good about our running back room right now. It's better than it's been in a while. Zach Wallace was a very good running back at Tennessee Martin. He's actually an Arkansas product, and he rushed for over 1,000 yards last year at Martin. He's come in now to A-State. Jaquez Cross is kind of that speedster type back that's certainly in the mix. You'll see him on Saturday, both at running back and in the kick return game. And then Brian Sneed is a guy that was a 5-star coming out of high school at running back. Initially went to Ohio State and has found his way to Arkansas State. So he'll be in the mix at running back as well. And then you look at the receiver spots. Corey Rucker is back at Arkansas State. He's a guy that had a tremendous start to his career at A-State and then went to South Carolina for 1 year, wanted to come back to Arkansas State. So he's back on campus now. And I thought it was kind of funny that your tight end actually did the same thing, was at Oklahoma for 3 years, went to South Carolina last year, and now he's back. But Corey Rucker did the same thing for us. We've got a senior wideout in Jeff Foreman, who definitely is one of the top targets. And then in the slot, we've got a guy that transferred in from Syracuse, Courtney Jackson. He was their leading receiver a couple of years ago, and now he's coming to be part of our receiving core as well. So we feel like we've made some upgrades. There's a lot of new faces on offense, but feel like that it has a chance to be better this season.
Now, as far as what the style of offense is going to look like, in your opinion, is it an up-tempo attack? Are they going to get in a huddle, take their time? Like, what are you expecting the offense to look like just from an operation standpoint?
Yeah, there's some tempo to it, but it's not as fast as maybe some of the offenses you're going to see in the Big 12. I mean, they'll spread you out. I think really similar to a lot of the offenses you'll see. I mean, they'd like to be balanced. Obviously, I think what happens early in the ball game is going to dictate what Arkansas State ends up doing on Saturday. Obviously, you'd like to establish some kind of run game with that bigger offensive line and the running backs I mentioned. Hopefully, that is something the Red Wolves can do. But, if they need to go to the air, again, they've upgraded at some of those other skill spots too. But I think it's an offense that's going to see some tempo. You're going to see 3-4 wide receiver sets at times, and they're going to spread you out.
What you went through the running backs, and it's a good group. What do you expect from the running game? Anything that they're going to build on from maybe they've done in previous seasons, or with that bigger offensive line and kind of a different group there in the backfield, do you think it's going to have a different look, like stylistically?
Well, I hope so. And Ted, you mentioned that O-line. I mean, I keep going back to it. I mean, that really is the key. That's where we've struggled the last couple of years. The first couple of years that Coach Jones has been here, just trying to build up that offensive line to where it needs to be. And look, you see it. I think some of the biggest differences between the Power Five and the Group of Five, and I think the talent level Yeah, and you guys have seen it as well in games like this. Some of the better group of 5 teams, the starting 11 on both sides, there's not much difference, but it comes down to the depth after that. And when the offensive line has 3 players suffer significant injuries like the Red Wolves did last season, you don't have that kind of depth behind them where you can come in and do what you want to do. And unfortunately, the Red Wolves did have 3 significant injuries to their starting offensive line last year, and it just completely changes everything you're doing offensively. So as it affects the run game, you know how that affects the run game with the offensive line. If you've got guys that are beat up front, that's going to kind of change what you're going to do. But I feel like going into the season, you've got a really good starting offensive line. You've got a little bit more depth. There are a couple of more backups this year, and then the running back room really is one of the better rooms right now for Arkansas State. So again, it's going to be a huge challenge against that Oklahoma defense coming up on Saturday. But hopefully, with the upgrades they've made, we can see a little bit of progress.
Now, if the Red Wolves want to make this interesting at all, right, they got to play well along the defensive line. Among that group, who are the standouts? Who's really stood out to you in training camp? Who were they hoping can provide some resistance against Oklahoma's offensive attack?
Yeah, I like our ends. They're young guys. Keyron Crawford showed us some things last year as a true freshman. He's a Memphis product. He'll get the start on Saturday at one of the defensive end spots. So like him, I like Ethan Hassler, who started his career as a linebacker, but he's moved up to the D line now as an end and has really built up his body. So Crawford and Hassler are the 2 ends. And then on the inside, that's been a position where Coach Jones has been trying to upgrade the last couple of years. Defensive tackle, that has not been the strength of the defense. And, we feel like we've got some more options there now. We brought in a guy at tackle, somebody that had started every game the last couple of years at North Alabama, Micah Bland, and he's had a good camp. Next to him, we've got guys like Tim Hardiman, Tank Sujic, who is a former Vanderbilt transfer. And then we brought in a Princeton transfer, Nate Marty, who's had a good camp as well. And feel like hopefully with that rotation, we can stay somewhat fresh at the tackle spots, but we need to see a little bit more production than what we've seen at those interior defensive line positions than what we've seen the last couple of years.
I almost feel like Colorado shouldn't be the story. Arkansas State should be the transfer portal story. I feel like everyone you've listed off is transfers from all kinds of different schools. How has that been for you trying to keep track of learn a whole new football team this year?
Well, yeah, I think that's just kind of the new normal anymore.
Yeah.
You have to
Same for us.
spend a lot of camp just figuring out who the new guys are and what numbers they're wearing and where they are on the depth chart and just getting to know a new crew. And obviously there's things like that you got to do every preseason, but even more so, I think now in the age of the transfer portal. And you're right, you can go out and address some needs in the portal, but kind of getting back to what I was talking about earlier, I think Coach Jones has really stayed true to what he wants to do. And I know I'm mentioning a lot of these portal guys. They've really still gone out and recruited the high schools as strong as anybody. And that is how they're building this thing up. This is still a really young team. And they were one of the youngest teams in the country last year. I think they were the 4th youngest when you looked at the percentage of underclassmen on the roster. Now, obviously, you got a little bit more experience this season, but when you look at the number of seniors, the Red Wolves have the 3rd fewest amount of seniors of any roster in the country this year. And the only 2 with less seniors, and I found out this stat yesterday, Old Dominion only has 6, and Colorado has one senior on their roster this year with the way Dion has flipped that. But I thought that was interesting. This is still a young team, but yeah, I think that they've really done a good job with the high school players, but tried to address those needs through the portal.
One last question for you, Matt. We'll let you get out of here, man. Any other
Yeah.
playmakers on the defensive side that we need to know? It seems like the most experience on that defense is in the secondary, but who are the other standouts on that defense?
Yeah, I really like I like a couple of our linebackers in particular, Malik Straker and Char Willikis. Kenny Willikis is Char's brother. Kenny, a former All-American at Michigan State, playing in the NFL, and Char has done a good job. He's gone from a special teams guy a couple of years ago, and he'll get the start at Mike linebacker coming up on Saturday. So happy for him. And then I really think the strength of the defense is the secondary. You've got a lot of experience coming back. Sammy Johnson, Leon Jones have seen a lot of time at corner before. And we were able to bring in a guy who had started the last couple of years at UCF, Justin Hodges. And, he came in mid-camp. So he's just been here a few weeks, and he's earned the starting position at one of the corner spots in a big hurry. We've got some more depth behind those guys I mentioned. And then at safety, just a ton of experience there. Eddie Smith, a former Alabama transfer, he'll start. Travion Thomas is another guy that started a lot of games right beside him at safety. And then Justin Parks, one of the team leaders, another guy at that position to look for. But we really feel with the experience and the talent in the secondary, that should be the strength of the defense.
Matt, we appreciate the time, man. Travel safe to Norman, and we'll see you on Saturday.
Hey, looking forward to it.
Well, it sounds like our man Matt's got some new names to learn.
Yeah. That's the conversation we needed to have, though, to get up to date on this team and some of the names that are going to be out there. It's going to be interesting. Hey, I'm happy that this is going to be a much better test for our defensive line maybe than I anticipated coming in.
Yeah. That's the way that Matt made it sound.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we'll see how it goes. All right. Let's preview the biggest games in week 1 of college football. But first,
John Vance Auto Group has been serving Oklahomans for 40 years. Family owned and operated. They have 9 full-service dealerships in Woodward, Miami, and Guthrie. No matter what your vehicle needs are, John Vance Auto Group has you covered. They carry domestic brands such as Ford, Lincoln, Chevy, Buick, GMC, Chrysler, Dodge, Ram, Jeep, and Wagoneer. John Vance Auto Group's goal is to give unequaled service and to exceed customers' expectations in every way, which is why they have their lifetime loyalty program. And here's how it works. Buy a new or used car from them, then all you have to do is get all of the manufacturer recommended maintenance done at the Vance dealership. And if something goes wrong with the components of your engine, transmission, drive, axle, or transfer unit, they will cover the repair cost. It's a great deal. You can browse their entire inventory or find the John Vance dealership near you at vanceautogroup.com.
And attention business owners, you need Insurica in your life. Insurica is one of the country's largest insurance brokers with 30 offices throughout Oklahoma, Texas, and the Southwest. Insurica is able to customize programs by accessing the latest information from many insurance carriers. They compare and contrast coverage offerings and pricing in order to design a cost-effective, comprehensive program to meet your business's specific needs. If your business partners with Insurica, you'll save huge amounts of money and take back control of your total cost of risk. If your business wants to be best in class, connect with Insurica at Insurica.com. That's INSURICA.com. All right, week 1 here in college football. Really fun one. On Thursday night, it'll be at 7 p.m. on ESPN. Florida travels to number 14, Utah, and this line has moved a lot. But currently, sitting at Utah, being a 6.5-point favorite. Ted, this was a fun game between these two teams last year. I think it certainly makes a big difference that this one is in Salt Lake City. But the big question remains, will Cam Rising play or not? And I don't know what to think about this football game until we know if he is or isn't.
Right. I operate off of what I have seen from Cam Rising previously. I know nothing about his injury now and where he sits or what their thoughts are, but I know that dude's a stud. I know he wants to play. I know he's tough as hell. I would slide my money over to the section that says Cam Rising's playing in this football game.
Yeah, it's almost to the point where I'm not going to believe he's not playing until I see someone else run out there for Utah at quarterback.
That's right.
Which I think says a lot about how much respect people have for him as a player and his toughness and just the way that he goes about it. Now, whoever's playing quarterback for him is going to try to find Keithy, the tight end. Guy's a stud. But they've got some question marks at wide receiver. And on the other side of things, it's an important year two for Billy Napier there at Florida. And I really wonder how much is he going to put on Graham Mertz, right, in this game. I would anticipate them leaning on the running game with Trevor Etienne and Montrell Johnson. Like, they got two really, really dynamic backs. But here's where I'm at with this one. I'm going to need to see Graham Mertz go beat a good team on the road before I put any type of faith in him. It's just where I'm at. And I've got questions about Utah's defense. They were not the type of defense I expected them to be a year ago, right? And they got some new faces. They got some things to figure out. But from a betting perspective, there's way too much unknown for me to touch this game. If Cam Rising doesn't play, I would not be surprised at all if Florida went and won. But I can't bet on Graham Mertz. There's just no way in hell I'm doing that. I'm just looking to be entertained with this one.
Yeah. It's an interesting dynamic with this game. The way Utah lost it last year, I mean, if they play that game 10 times, Utah wins 9 of them, I can't believe that Florida can go out to Utah and beat them. I don't think Florida's very good. They've got some individual excellently talented players scattered throughout the roster, but to me, this is a style game, and Utah playing it at home. And you're right, defensively, they've got to get back to being able to control that defensive line, control the line of scrimmage, which is what got them to, be known for who they are defensively. But I don't know. I think the intimidation factor of playing like a big name like Florida may have been there a year ago, and I don't think it's going to be there at all this year, and it's going to change the way Florida attacks this game.
Yeah. I'm excited to watch, but yeah, if Cam Rising plays, I love Utah. If he doesn't,
I just don't want him to get hurt.
Just
don't want him to get hurt.
That's the worst case scenario, right? Coming back that quickly from the ACL, going out there trying to be the tough guy, and then it going really wrong. Like, we all want to see Cam Rising play football this season, and as high of expectations as Utah has for the season, right? They've got to prioritize clearly his health, but also winning the Pac-12, right? You can't have him miss the entire year, right? So I think Kyle Whittingham and that staff are going to be smart, but I'm kind of just expecting both teams running a lot, just like kind of a bar fight type of football game.
Be good.
That's what I see. All right, moving on to the next game, in what could be the most hype potential blowout we've seen in quite some time. Colorado going to number 17 TCU. TCU currently, depending on where you're looking at, a 20.5 or 21-point favorite. This game will be Saturday at 11 a.m. on Fox. This is big noon kickoff. And that it's going to be 100 degrees in Fort Worth. So you always got to factor that in.
Brutally hot. There's no doubt about that. This game is interesting to me. I don't know where, TCU is one of the more difficult teams for me to place kind of in the Big 12 where they are. they lost some players, there's no doubt, but they return a lot of really good players too. I don't overthink this. It's cool that Deion's at Colorado, and the thought of Colorado being back in the Big 12 is cool, and maybe being back to where they were as a top 25 type of team yearly is cool to think about, but they ain't there yet, and TCU is going to whip their ass in this game.
I completely agree. Now, while I think Deion Sanders has upgraded the roster, I still think it's one of the worst rosters in the Power Five, maybe still the worst. And we're all interested in seeing Colorado play, right? With the way the Coach Prime has gone about flipping the roster, right? And I'm excited to watch Shedeur Sanders play. And I am for sure excited to watch Travis Hunter play and see how much offense he gets to play, right? Guy looks like he's going to be an elite corner, but he's made it very clear he wants to play a little wide receiver as well. But I'm really going to be tuned in to see Chandler Morris and that offense for TCU going to be playing with a lot more tempo than what we saw from them last year in Kendall Browse's offense. Should be really fun to watch. And I'll go back to what Sonny Dykes told us at Big 12 Media Day. Said the wide receiver group is better. Sounds like they're going to move some offensive linemen around. Brandon Coleman, who was their right tackle, was their left tackle last year, a mountain of a man. Sounds like they're kicking him into left guard, and they're going to bring Coker, the right tackle, over to play left tackle. So you're going to have two just enormous dudes on the left side of the line. So if that ends up being the lineup, right, which I know that they have practiced with that lineup this week, I look forward to watching that.
Yeah.
And you look at the line they're going to have across the board. I mean, Jeremy Clark, who does their 24/7 sports site, told me they're going to average about 6'6" and 330 across the board.
Woo.
So a lot of beef, large humans.
That's a lot of beef for a fully dismantled and repurposed roster.
Yeah. And this is kind of how I see this game going. I expect TCU to pull away in the second half and win big. Right? I don't think Colorado has the depth, especially in that type of heat. They've got some talent, but I think they're gonna run out of gas, and the Horned Frogs are really gonna separate in the second half and put it on them. Like that's kind of how I see this game going. But I'm excited to watch Morris. I'm excited, and I think that TCU defense is going to be better this season, despite losing guys like Horton and D. Winters. I think year two under Gillespie, they're just going to be a better unit, right? Play better team defense. So I kind of think Colorado's walking to a bit of a buzzsaw, and that buzzsaw also happens to be like in 101 degree heat.
Yeah. I think we view this thing the exact same, except I think TCU is going to pull away on the second drive of the game.
Oh, just straight come out and punch him right in the face.
Mm-hmm.
Is it weird that I want that to happen? It's nothing against Deion Sanders. I'm way higher on TCU than a lot of people.
I am too. I've been slowly, the more I've looked at it, the more I've, really heard you talk about some of the guys that are coming back, because I don't know why I thought they lost Hodge and Hodges at linebacker, but they're both back, which is
that's a prediction from that game, is that Jamoy Hodge is going to do something to where it's going to set Twitter on fire. Now, hopefully he doesn't get kicked out of the game, but he's probably going to green dog and knock Shedeur Sanders into another dimension or something like that. And everyone's going to go, oh my, he's going to have one of those plays. Guarantee it. I guarantee it. Six for the Horned Frogs. Guy is just a menace to society.
Since Colorado announced that they're coming to the Big 12, it's only fitting that you have your quarterback sent out of the game by Jamoy Hodge. Right?
That's how it goes.
It's part of coming to the conference.
Yeah, he is. He's fun to watch, man. But yeah, I'm really excited for that football game, mainly on the TCU side of things, right?
Yep.
Especially with the Sooners having them the last week of the season. All right, last game we're going to hit. Big one. Marquee matchup. Number 5 LSU versus number 8 Florida State. LSU is currently a 2.5-point favorite. This is going to be Sunday Night Football. 6:30 on ABC. It's at Camping World Stadium, which is where OU played the Cheez-It Bowl. So we're familiar with now. It's going to be interesting to see what that crowd looks like. You got to imagine with how big of a game it is and the way that LSU fans travel that it's going to be 50-50-ish or at least close to it. But it was a heavy Florida State crowd when we went there for the bowl game. But I'm not entirely sure how the ticket distribution went, but I expect it to be a more balanced crowd.
I expect it to be a volatile situation is what I expect.
Yes.
With the night kick and the way Florida State gets it on pretty good as we witnessed down there. And LSU obviously has a reputation to uphold. So volatile situation.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. Now, it's highly unlikely that we get something more dramatic than what we got last year in this game, right? LSU storming back at the fourth quarter, only get the tying PAT blocked, right? And that's how that one ended. But I'm expecting a really good football game. I am, and it's heavily influenced by what we saw in the Cheez-It Bowl. I'll be the first one to tell you, I am not completely bought in on Florida State. I like Jordan Travis, but I don't love him. And even without Mason Smith available for LSU, I could see Harold Perkins and all those guys they've got in that front seven. I could see them causing some problems for Florida State's offensive line. And then on the flip side, I'm really excited to watch Jared Verse go against those tackles, right? Both of those guys that started as true freshmen for LSU a year ago, like watching Verse go against those guys who both project to be, NFL guys down the line. That should be a lot of fun. And then I could see Jaden Daniels. That's a fast track there down in Orlando. Jaden Daniels and his legs, that's an interesting wrinkle to this game. And Jordan Travis can run also.
Mm-hmm.
So both quarterbacks and what they end up doing with their legs, the damage they do as runners, I think that's going to be a big part of this football game.
There'll be some talent out there in this game, isn't there? Individual talent. I'm curious to see what Jordan Travis and Johnny Wilson can do linking up.
Let's not. Keon Coleman comes in from Michigan State. He was their best wide receiver. Everything I've listened to and read said that he just looks amazing in training camp for the Noles. So
that's going to be a fun one, man. I think LSU, because I'm kind of the same way on Florida State, and maybe it's.
Can I just say, I think I'm starting to develop a little SEC bias since we're going to the conference. I'm just going to be perfectly honest.
I hadn't thought of that.
Because I looked at it and I was like, LSU, they're just going to be more talented. They're just going to be bigger and more physical. That was something that popped into my head as I was thinking about this football game. And I don't know where that came from.
Well, maybe I just haven't recognized my SEC bias yet, but I think for me, it has more to do with not being very impressed by Florida State in the bowl game.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And maybe that's a dumb thing to do, but a lot of their really good individual players, I was just like, okay, good, not great. Jared Verse, good. First round, maybe, he's got some of those plays that are just so good that you say there's not very many guys that could do that. But I didn't see that on a snap in, snap out basis from him. So I don't know. Give me LSU though, if I have to pick.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like LSU -2.5. And I would just say, with all the talent that's going to be on the field, I think we can all agree, please don't let it come down to field goal kicking again.
I know.
No offense to the kickers. I love kickers. They're essential to success. But when you get two teams, like you're getting a top 10 matchup, and these are two teams that a lot of people think have a very legitimate chance to go to the playoff and possibly make some noise. Let's decide it some other way than field goals. Please You know,
I agree. And I don't know. I mean, unfortunately, it's part of the game.
yeah.
We have to live with it when it happens, but give us something dramatic.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right. Let's finish up with our winners and losers of the week. But first, celebrate with a Schooner All-American Ale, the official craft beer of OU Athletics from Coop Ale Works, named after the iconic Sooner schooner that races across Owen Field after an OU score. You can join in on the celebration with an ice-cold beer from Coop Ale Works. You can join it at the Palace on the Prairie, at OU Athletics events, at the bar, at the tailgate, and in the comfort of your own home. For more information on Schooner All-American Ale, visit schoonerale.com. Must be 21 to purchase. Please drink responsibly. Schooner All-American Ale, the taste of game day.
Bishop McGinnis Catholic High School represents a tradition of educational excellence in Oklahoma City. Grounded in a faith-based education, Bishop McGinnis offers a college prep curriculum that includes 22 AP courses, participation in OSSAA athletics, where they've won over 100 state championships, and numerous clubs and organizations for students to join and grow. If you want to provide the best possible educational and spiritual development for your children, contact Bishop McGinnis Catholic High School or visit bmchs.org. Financial aid is available.
As always, Ted, kick us off. Who do you have as your winner of the week?
Oh man, I hope I'm not jumping the gun on this, but I had to give our man a little bit of time, a little bit of credit, a little shout out. Brayden Willis made the 53 for the 49ers.
Let's go.
How awesome is that? Perfect
I
place
love
for
it.
him to go.
We talked about it when he ended up there. It was as good of an opportunity as he was going to find, right, with his skill set, with what he showed in his senior year at Oklahoma. It almost seemed like too perfect of a fit, but now there are a couple days here, right?
I don't know.
You don't want to start popping the champagne quite yet, right? Because you got waivers, a lot of other guys become available on that waiver wire. I'm just saying, we got to wait here a couple days. Now, I'm fully anticipating Brayden being part of the 49ers organization, but I've seen the movie before where it goes, where the celebration begins, and then 2 days later, they're bringing another guy in and you're getting cut. I've lived that life. So while I'm so pumped, I'm staying calm. I'm not overdoing it. Now, 2 days from now, let's celebrate. I mean, big time. Let's celebrate.
It's a great sign no matter what, whenever you make the 53. It's a good sign that you're thought of highly, obviously at your own location, but there's probably going to be some other people that have a high mark on you as well. So not a whole lot of stability at the moment, but gosh, I'm proud of him. And I think the future is very bright for the kid. I'm thrilled for him.
Just think, he gets to walk into that building every day, walk straight up to Brock Purdy and make fun of him. Right? Hey, remember all the times you lost to us? You remember the Big 12 championship game? What was that throw? What were you doing? You know,
you had plenty of time left. Why heave it like that? Come on, man.
That's fun. And in all seriousness, extremely proud of Brayden. He earned this, right? And it started with what he did for this football team last year. I mean, he was invaluable to the 2022 OU team. And, you know, when you put in the work, you get rewarded. So I'm fired up for him. And all of a sudden, he's on a roster where going to a Super Bowl as a rookie is a very real possibility.
Yes,
with the way that team looks.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's going to be a fun year for them, man. Proud of the guy. Awesome job, Brayden Willis.
Way to go, Brayden Willis. Weight room Willie on the 53 there in San Fran. Let's go. All right, who do you have as your loser of the week?
Well, from one good story about a tight end to a bad story about a tight end. What's going on with Arik Gilbert, man? Come on, right?
Did you see the video?
Yeah.
I mean, what?
You know, I
It took him entirely too long to kick that door in, by the way, at his size.
know, and the shock that the police were there. You know, what what do you expect? What do you think's going to happen? I get really frustrated with guys that are as talented as he is, have as many second, third, fourth opportunities as he had, and still, like, this isn't a guy that's making mistakes. He wasn't hanging out too late, and some circumstance went down, or a bar fight. Some of those things are less avoidable than something like this. To blatantly go break into a store and steal a bunch of vape equipment. What the hell are you doing?
It's way up there on the stupid stuff you can do. Right. And I mean, what, felony burglary charge? I mean, what, this is this guy's third school?
Yeah.
Remember LSU, then Georgia, now Nebraska. They were still waiting on his waiver. Hey, you know what doesn't help you get your waiver approved? Getting arrested. That's not going to help the situation. I don't want to pile on the kid, but I don't ever expect to see this guy playing football again. I just don't. I think, it's clear he just doesn't have it. He doesn't have it. He does not have what it takes to be great. And it's a shame because he's got all the physical ability in the world, but physical ability, it doesn't make all that other stuff, all the mistakes he's made, go away.
Yeah. And you got people bending over backwards to get you on the right path to where you can take advantage of your naturally gifted talents, and I just think it's incredibly selfish. I don't know what you can go down the list. I hate to see it, hopefully he gets the help that he needs to where he can stop making bad decisions. But my goodness, it's frustrating to see because there's guys that are just dying to have those opportunities and to do the right things.
And if you can't do the right things when Matt Rule is leading your program, the problem is you.
Right.
Because that guy, I think him and Venables are cut from a very similar cloth when it comes to the character stuff off the field, the expectations, but also like pouring into his guys, just from everything I've been told. I've also been told that dude is just a grinder as a head coach. But it is, I mean, I think it says a lot about him that Rule comes in. He has that certain reputation of pouring into his guys, and then you reward Matt Rule by breaking into a liquor store and a vape store and stealing a bunch of stuff. That just, I can't imagine that's what's been being preached since Rule took over.
No. Bad thing all the way around. Bad look.
Yeah, bad look. Now, I'm with you. Hopefully he gets the help he needs. Hey, I hope we see him play football. I really do, because I think the guy's incredibly talented, but that seems unlikely with the point we're at with his career.
Yeah, going to be tough.
Yeah.
Going to be tough.
All right, let's get to my winner and loser. But First Fidelity Bank is a full-service financial institution based in Oklahoma with tailored solutions for all your personal and business needs. Checking accounts, saving accounts, home loans, and much more. They do it all. Whether it's online banking from your computer or mobile banking from your phone, everything is stress-free with FFB. Making mobile deposits, paying bills online, and moving money to different accounts could not be easier. Make your life easier, people, and go bank with First Fidelity Bank. Visit ffb.com for more information.
And head to opolisclothing.com for our podcast, merchandise, and the best OU gear out there. That's opolisclothing.com, OPOLIS clothing.com. Use promo code TED, TED, for 10% off. That's opolisclothing.com. Use promo code TED for 10% off. Buttery soft and 10% off.
All right, for my winner of the week, thought about going with Josh Dobbs. Now, Arizona Cardinal fans probably aren't thrilled with some of the decisions, right? Some of the moves that the organization has made lately, right? They cut Colt McCoy. But hey, all of a sudden, Josh Dobbs is a starting quarterback in the National Football League. Good for him. Well documented, the big brain on this guy. He was with, I believe he was with Arizona's OC last year in Cleveland. So they may be tanking for Caleb Williams. Who knows? But good for Josh Dobbs. How about that?
Yeah. Hey, you got an opportunity. It's got to be kind of a weird dynamic, but here we go. Off we go.
Yeah. Josh Dobbs and Clayton Tune, currently the options for the Cardinals. So, yeah, maybe they may be looking to acquire that first pick. Now, we'll see when Kyler comes back. Who knows? No, I'm sure they'll be smart with that ACL, but yeah, I'm glad I'm not a Cardinals fan. I'll say that.
Yep. Well, it's going to be a rough first half of the season, and I guess maybe an entire season, but hey, you'll have something to show for it, perhaps.
Yeah. All right, but my winner of the week, Justin Thomas. Guy had a really rough year on the PGA Tour. But Zach Johnson announces his captain picks for the Ryder Cup a month from now in Italy, and Justin Thomas is one of them. And he is going to be under a lot of pressure to perform with the type of season that he had. But Ted, what a great opportunity for Justin Thomas to tell everyone, hey, like, just pipe down. I got this. If he goes out and is awesome, and he has been tremendous in Ryder Cups and President's Cups in the past. If he goes out there and does the damn thing, man, everyone's going to forget about how bad of a season he had.
Yep. I mean, hey, you're there. You got the opportunity. You're going to have to put everything that's happened here recently behind you and get your game for a week. Is it a 2-week deal or is it just 1 week? It's just 1 week, right?
Yeah, it's just 1 week.
You're going to have to get it going for 1 week. You need to find the game, because if you don't and it goes poorly, there's going to be a lot of fingers pointed at you and Zach Johnson, frankly.
Yeah. His other captain's picks, Brooks Koepka, Colin Morikawa, Ricky Fowler, Jordan Spieth, and Sam Burns. Those guys are going to join Scotty Scheffler, Wyndham Clark, Brian Harmon, Patrick Cantlay, Max Homa, and Xander Schauffele. And they're probably going to be the underdog, especially since I could not believe this. The U.S. has not won a Ryder Cup on the road since 1993.
Dang.
So maybe Justin Thomas struggling through the season. Maybe just comes out on fire and he's the difference. That'd be an awesome story. Now, there's also some potential disaster potential there, right? But I love the Ryder Cup. I hate that it's during football season, so we can never go. But man, I saw this list and I was like, all right, let's get weird, boys. Come on. USA.
Yeah. I like the lineup, and I like Justin Thomas. I hope he goes out and plays well. He's a fun guy to watch whenever he's got it going. So we'll see. It's gonna be rough though.
Yeah. We'll see. I remain optimistic, right? When I can cheer for the red, white, and blue, you bet your sweet ass I will.
There you go.
It'll be fun. All right, for my loser of the week, thought about going with Kenny Dillingham, the head coach there at Arizona State. My read on the situation, and maybe he knew, right? But it really feels like the leadership at Arizona State blindsided him and his players with that self-imposed bowl ban. You saw his media availability after the morning after, or after practice when it happened that morning, and he said all the right things, but he also sounded pissed. Right? And it honestly, the way that he handled it made me a big fan of his. I'm not sure they were going to win 6 games this season, Ted. That seemed unlikely, but I hate it for those players. I hate it for Kenny Dillingham. Herm Edwards, who did all of it, like he's not getting punished at all. He's all over ESPN still, telling people what they should and shouldn't do. But it feels like Arizona State may have a good one at head coach. And I have no clue how their athletic director still has his job. It's insane.
No kidding. Do you know any of the rules or specifics on a self-imposed bowl ban?
All I know is Jeremy Pruitt was passing out bags of cash, and Tennessee was able to avoid a bowl ban.
Yeah. I guess what I'm saying here is, if there's no like rule on whenever you have to like self-impose a bowl ban, like I don't even know what that means. I guess you just turn down an invite. Why don't you wait and see how the first part of the season goes?
Yeah. Why do this now? And it is ridiculous, right? You're talking about they're trying to get ready to play a game, and the entire team finds this out. And you've got guys that have transferred in, right, that chose Arizona State. And it makes you wonder, did those guys know this was coming? And it seems like none of them did.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous. But I guess I'm not that surprised, right? I think we've all seen how incompetent's a strong word, but just I don't think Arizona State has the greatest leadership in the athletics department and at the president level.
Yeah. It also feels like the NCAA is really making a push, because we heard all this NCAA's irrelevant talk. I feel like they're really making a push here to assert that they still have some control over the sport. And I think they are picking, it feels like they're picking a little bit randomly, but teams that kind of have a lot to lose. That I don't know. It seems very strategic by the NCAA.
I'm not even sure they would have gotten a bowl ban. If Tennessee, with everything they did, they avoided a bowl ban, why would Arizona State get a bowl ban? And the NCAA in the Tennessee case, they made it clear, like, we don't want to punish the current players and coaches for the actions of the past staff, right? Mm-hmm. And that's something they said. Why would this be any different? That's where part of me thinks Arizona State was like, we just don't want to play the legal fees. We'll just self-impose a bowl ban. It's like,
yeah, and that may be the case. I don't know, but it feels like it feels like they're hanging something over them to where they have to do something. It's the same situation with Michigan, in my opinion. There must be some like very severe punishment that they've at least floated out there in order for these teams to take the kind of actions against themselves that they're taking. And it seems strange to me, especially considering the Tennessee deal.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. But I'm a Kenny Dillingham fan.
Yep, same.
Yeah, I liked it. All right, but my loser of the week, I disagree with this man seldomly. Nick Saban. This whole not releasing a depth chart, and the way that he framed it, like he basically made it sound like the media makes such a big deal out of the depth chart that it's like the media's fault. He's not doing it because the media makes it into this big thing where they see this depth chart, the initial one, as a final depth chart, and there can't be any changes. We all know that's not true. And then he goes on to say, like, it creates a bunch of distractions on the team. He wants his players to continue to compete. And this was the thing where he said he doesn't want anyone on their team feeling like they're a backup player or whatever, is how he phrased it. What? This goes against everything I've ever been told about this man, from guys that have played for him, guys that have worked under him. What's going on in Tuscaloosa, man? Like, if you don't want to tell us who you're going to play at quarterback, then just say that. Don't come up with this. Because it kind of sounds like he said, I don't want to hurt my players' feelings, which is insane to me.
Right. You want my theory?
Yeah, because everything that this guy does is calculated. Explain. What am I missing? Explain it to me.
I'm just throwing something out there because I feel like it is very anti Nick Saban. But the conversation this offseason about Alabama has not been very glowing. There's a lot of people think that his run is over. A lot of people picking Texas to go down and beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa. It's been a strange offseason. And I almost feel like if you're going to say something stupid about us, we're not going to give any fuel to the fire. And it's almost, I feel like, not a punishment to the media, but maybe that's the only way to put it. Like, if you're gonna say stupid things, well, I'm not going to give you any information. That's just kind of how I feel it is.
You think the media has hurt Saban's feelings, so he's like, you don't get a depth chart.
Well, I think that
he doesn't have to put one out, right? There's no rule.
Right.
But saying that, that's fine. Like, if he's pissed at the media for what they've been saying during the offseason and he doesn't want to give them a depth chart, fine. But to say that you don't want any of your guys feeling like backups, what?
Well, I mean, here's the other thing. I don't know when classes start in Alabama, but if you got a bunch of guys that you feel like are tickling with the transfer portal before classes start, that are graduates or something, that's the only other thing, because we've seen a lot of these quarterback contests where we know who the starter is, but they're not naming it until really late for, I think, reasons to keep guys from transferring.
I get that the portal's kind of changed everything, right? But I just don't think players need to be handled this way. As a player, all I wanted was for the coaches to be honest with me and to understand where I stood. That's all I wanted. Right. And it'd be one thing if we were having this conversation about Colorado. This is Alabama, man. These guys know what they signed up for.
Let me ask you this, though. Have you ever been on a team and been in a situation going into a game where you don't know who the starter is?
No.
My point is, the team, everyone there knows the depth chart,
which is what makes what he said insane.
I know, but the team knows the depth chart, and they, for the most part, they know who's going to be announced, like, coming out of the tunnel when they do the home, like, read the rosters and all that stuff. That's why I think it's a punishment for the media.
Well, I think it's going to do the exact opposite thing. The depth chart wouldn't have been that big of a story. Now it's a massive story.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, now it's a massive story, and it's Alabama, man. I feel like every guy there knows what they signed up for, right? All high 4-star and 5-star players. Like, that's the whole thing. That's anything I've ever been told about that program since he took over. Like, it's competition. Like, to be a starter at Bama, like, it's a battle, man. So when he says stuff like this, it blew my mind. I watched it 3 times to make sure I didn't miss anything. I was like, no, I've got to be misunderstanding something here. And no, dude said it. I was stunned, because not being a starter, when that initial depth chart came out, like, not being a starter, that was like the most motivating thing in the world for a lot of guys in our locker room. It's like, hey, I want to get my name on that one line. And a quick story, 2010, we have an opener against Utah State. I had outplayed Stephen Good all training camp. That we were very different players, and he's an awesome guy. He's probably the strongest person I've ever been around. But I was playing better football than him. Friday, before we go out for walkthrough, James Patton says, I'm starting Stephen Good. You're going to play a ton, but you're not starting. And I was furious. Made a bit of a scene. Not it was just me, but like, it was like, there was a lot of 4-letter words. And then it was, hey, you're going to have no choice but to put my name at the top of that effing depth chart when we play Florida State next week. Like, and that's how, and I was determined to not feel that feeling that I was feeling at that moment in time again. And I never did. Started the final 12 games of that year, 38 more after that. Never felt that feeling again. It was ultra motivating for me. So when I heard Saban like, oh, I don't want any guys feeling like they're a backup or whatever, just from my personal experience, I was like, listen, that was one of the keys for me as a player, was knowing I was a backup and not a starter for that game. I was furious, dude. Like, and embarrassed. Like, my parents thought I was going to start in the game. Like, I was furious, and I was like, I am never feeling that again.
Yeah.
And I used that for the rest of my career. Like, I never wanted my name to be on that 2 line while I was a college football player. I think Saban, if he's approaching it that way, which maybe he isn't, maybe this is just a weird stunt publicly, he's doing those guys a disservice, because that's not real life. Real life is not, oh, you all play. No. In every aspect of life, there's starters, there's backups. It's just, that's life, man. So I still can't believe he said this. Still can't believe it.
I know. It just one more point. It's very interesting to just kind of hear a couple of different things from across the country. And some of it is just the reality of your situation, but I don't know. I almost feel like there's something underlying here. Gundy said, the amount of people Oklahoma State's going to play, right? Coach Venables talking about the amount of guys OU's going to play. He was saying it at Rudy's. If you've earned 20% of snaps, we're going to play you 20% of the snaps. If you've earned 50%, we're going to play you 50%. Last year, I wish I would have played more guys. I think there's a concerted effort to play more young players. Number one, to try to keep them from getting in the transfer portal. Number two is to protect your roster against losing guys in the transfer portal as far as developing younger talent. Almost like we were talking about with Matt for Arkansas State. Butch Jones he said he's going to play a bunch of freshmen, true freshmen. He's trying to develop the culture. You can't have a culture program if you're bringing in, 60% of your starters on a year-by-year basis on a 1-year rental from the transfer portal. So I think maybe there's some of that going on across the country too.
Yeah, and
you can't come out and say it. You can't come out and say, like, we're going to play a bunch of guys at different positions because we think they may get in the transfer portal.
Yeah, and maybe it would be different if I was in the coaching world. But if I had a young player and we put out a depth chart and his reaction is to shut it down and to go somewhere else, maybe that guy wasn't right for our program. And I know there's a you got to balance all that now, right? With how college football is. I get that, but
there's a spectrum of the guy's not right for our program, but the talent says that.
Yeah, I know. There's definitely a spectrum, but it's a sliding scale.
Yes.
But I don't know. I don't think some of these kids are as soft, mentally fragile, like whatever term. I know a lot of people say that about this generation, right? And I wasn't some, super tough guy. I'm not going to pretend I was, but that I think maybe kids are just being handled too carefully.
That's true.
That's just,
Well,
you know,
I think, the biggest problem with the transfer thing is nobody in college football likes it.
Yeah.
But it's going to have to come from the conferences can make whatever rules they want. Okay. And just like you saw all the conference, almost like dominoes, open up their transfer rules. I don't remember who the first person to say it was, but that's what opened it up. Now, the SEC isn't going to say no longer transfer in conference or like you have to miss a year. They're not going to do that if the Big Ten isn't going to do it.
right.
In the Big 12, they're not going to put themselves at a disadvantage. So there needs to be like a mafia style meeting of the families where everyone comes together and even though we hate one another, we have to look at something in the portal and all agree to making some rule changes within our conferences if we want to eliminate some of this stuff that's going on.
Yeah. Last thing I'll say, I bet Georgia's going to put out a depth chart.
What if they don't?
Then maybe I'll change my thinking.
No, they will.
They are the current king in the SEC, and I expect them to put out a depth chart. Just saying. On that note, episode 349. Can you believe the next one's going to be 350? Let's go.
It's crazy, man.
We'll have a new podcast that'll drop on Sunday. Just a reminder, you can hear Teddy from 3 to 6 on the ref, and you can hear me from 2 to 5 on SiriusXM Big 12 Radio, channel 375. Hope you all have a great rest of your week. We'll see you on Saturday, baby. Let's go. And until next time, we appreciate y'all for listening. Do what you always do, Oklahoma. Take care of each other.